All right.
So
I'm gonna go so deep on this that I lose half of you guys. So
cool.
get ready. A lot of people think that things are paradoxes, but they're actually not because we have an order of operations. So, how do I give this example? You might think that being a Bitcoin maximalist would increase the price of your bag of Bitcoins because people won't waste their money buying all of these scams. If you think that, like I did, you are wrong. Took me a while to figure out I was wrong. Take you a while to figure out you were wrong. And I'm going to explain how the timing of it makes you wrong short and medium term and right long term when you're probably already wrecked and sold the bottom and don't give a fuck anymore. So here's what that example looks like. Cryptocurrencies are not used as currencies today. No one accepts them. Nobody. 4 out of the top 100 retailers accept crypto. A lot of ATMs that used to exist, they don't exist anymore. A lot of Bitcoin companies that hired big teams have fired their big teams. Search volume, dead. Price, dead. Most altcoins down 95%. Bitcoin down 85%. Now, if you got in at 30, when I did, or slightly earlier, depending on what part of my stack you want to look at, I don't give a fuck. 3,000 is pretty nice. This isn't that bad. But if you got in at 15K, the 3,000 seems pretty shitty to you, right? And a lot of people like me that have been retired since 2003, I can hold. I can just keep holding, right? Oh, I can wait for the next bull run. I can wait 5 years, whatever. I don't think it'll take that long. I think it will take maximum 1 year. And if Bitcoin Hex works, it might go a lot quicker. Because people have a reason to buy the Bitcoin, which right now, if you think about it, what do you really need to buy Bitcoin for? What do you need to buy Bitcoin for? Nothing. Maybe if you want to transact on the darknet markets, if you can find one and get an invite and not get scammed and not get busted and not die, okay, all those things work out and you get your darknet thing and you had to buy a little bit of Bitcoin. Okay, so there's an actual use case where you have to buy Bitcoin. Is there any other use case where you have to buy Bitcoin? Yep, if you want to buy shitcoins. Now, what gets sold more, shitcoins or darknet? Shitcoins, by a lot. There's just, when you buy in the darknet, you get a pretty good bargain. You can only use so much of that crap. So for personal use, you can only throw, a couple grand a year in there or something? I'm not an expert on it. But for speculation, you could throw hundreds, millions of dollars a year into something. So shitcoins are actually the primary use case for anyone buying Bitcoin in 2017, which is why Ethereum went up farther, faster than Bitcoin did. People that bought Ethereum when it started made more than people that bought Bitcoin early 2011 when I did. And they did it faster. And that super pissed me off because I saw a lot of problems with the project. And I was wrong. It turns out that my model for evaluating the value of a cryptocurrency was based on its security, its number of wallets installed, the number of Reddit users it had, the lack of people getting hacked using it, the smaller attack surface so that it would always be attacked less, all of these things. I thought that is what made things valuable. But it turned out that in 2017, what made things valuable was the new money that hadn't already blown their wads buying Bitcoin. So in the beginning, remember I told you we were going deep? This is how deep we're going. All right, so I'm just going to give you some breadcrumbs so we can track back how we got here. So I said paradoxes don't usually actually exist. They get broken by analyzing time. And so something like a statement such as, if I stop these noobs from buying shitcoins, my Bitcoin bag will go up, is true short and midterm, false long term. It's both true and false. It depends on what frame of time you're looking at it, right? So in 2017, Ethereum went up higher and faster, and it was because everyone was buying it because they were new purchasers that hadn't been exposed to crypto before. They were kumbaya, soy developers, Silicon Valley guys that weren't libertarian, that weren't anarcho-capitalist, that weren't anti-government, a completely different mindset of people who probably is as well-funded or more on a per capita basis than the hardcore silver bugs and gold bugs. They came in, and it was the reason, and they saw how big the Bitcoin pump was, so it was even easier to sell them on that. So the price difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum had nothing at all to do with the technology whatsoever. It had everything to do with how many people hadn't bought in yet that left a giant pool of speculative capital to dump in quickly, right? Combined with the FOMO of, okay, institutions are finally going to get in. And that just pushed everything up. So if you bought Ethereum in middle of 2017, you did better than buying Bitcoin in the middle of 2017. Now, if you held your Ethereum past January of 2018, you did worse, right? So it was both a better and worse investment depending on when you got in and when you got out. So this concept that Bitcoin maximalists have, that if they could just kill all the shit coins, Bitcoin would be doing so much better, is 100% false. 100%. The only media buys done to get the general public interested in crypto were scammy shitcoin ICO garbage media buys. They're the only people that have the margin to overcome the tragedy of the commons. They're the only people that can make enough profit on a new user to afford buying an ad to bring on a new user. Bitcoin is fucked. We can't afford to bring on new users because no one has enough of a stack to gain enough of a percentage, right? So let's take my stack, right? I bring on a new user. How many dollars did I make? Not many, right? Because I got to pull up the weight of all these other dead people who aren't buying ads. And it's undoable, which is why you don't see Bitcoin ads on television, right? So if you want to get people into crypto, they need to come in for the shit coins, get wrecked, see the gains on paper, get destroyed, and then be like, oh, fuck, I should have bought Bitcoin. That's still got some value, right? So in the short and midterm, maybe even the long term, depending on which parts you're looking at, shitcoins are the only reason that Bitcoin pumped the way that it did in 2017, because it sure as fuck was not adoption, sure as fuck was not wallets installed. It was none of the fundamentals that you would want to see the project doing well on, right? Now let's look at the progress the Bitcoin network has made since I got in 2011 until now. We got HD wallets, we got multi-sig, we got SegWit, which allows us to screw with Lightning, which isn't here yet, right? There's $1.5 million of capital in Lightning, maybe 2 million after the price bump today. That's not a lot, right? It's still beta software. What else can you do with it? The whole Bitcoin network really is just like send, receive, or mine. No one even uses all those other things. Not many. If you at home, the user, go into your Bitcoin wallet, you are not using multisig. Maybe if you're using a hardware wallet, maybe if you're using green address and set up some special rules. But for the most part, these things that I'm calling features, I'm being very generous about. The concept that Bitcoin just, you can send it, receive it, or mine it, that's about all we got, right? Now, what else did we get? We got a narrowly avoided inflation bug that would have been terrible. Somebody could have printed as many coins as they wanted and broke the 21 million coin limit, right? And we avoided it by this much because a Bitcoin Cash developer found it. That ain't great. That's not great. So the moral of my story here is you can be technically right and price wrong. You can be price right and price wrong at the same time, which is why every single price prediction you give or get from anyone else has to have a time component, or you will be right and destroy your followers, right? I told a lot of people not to buy Ethereum back when it was very cheap, and I was wrong, right? And I told you why I was wrong.
Yeah.
And every bad thing I've ever said about Ethereum, I leave those essays up because they're still accurate. You can route around those problems if you're smart, but I'm not going to pretend they're not there. So maximalism is the ignorance of the difference in benefits and drawbacks to every system. Every system has them. And to pretend that one is ultimately better is fucking very stupid.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't go that far. I think again, like, because